morning and happy Saturday, you guys. It is Amanda and Barron with Kickin Cancer Cares on KSLM Radio, 104.3 FM and 1220 AM. Our sponsor for this first half is Odd Moe's Pizza. They are absolutely amazing. My husband's favorite, so ours are different. I like the green monster and the Reggie Veggie, but he likes the Sweet Spot, which is their Hawaiian flavored pizza.
We've had this whole debate. Pineapples on, pineapples not on pizzas.
Yep. So do you think pineapple should be on pizza or off a pizza?
I don't know. I don't eat pizza, so that's up to Barron. I don't know.
It should be off.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding. My husband's like, no, it should be on. And absolutely, it's amazing.
So I'm guessing that's his pizza. It's not really one you guys share.
Yeah, no, that is his personal pizza, the Sweet Spot. So if you guys like the Hawaiian type of style pizza, the Sweet Spot is your go-to.
Well, you did ask a question to a person that is joining us again.
Yes.
A new voice, but a returning voice.
Yes.
So I wanted to reintroduce Dr. Sherrie Davis, who has ventured down here from Vancouver, Washington.
Welcome
Yeah,
again. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Remind our listeners, it's been several weeks since you were here before. So what do you do up in Vancouver? What's your profession up there?
Yeah, so I own Northwest Hypnosis and Integrative Medicine, and I'm a naturopathic doctor and behavioral health therapist and kinesiologist.
Okay.
That's a mouthful, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're going to get deeper into all of her credentials for just a few minutes.
Perfect.
Well, I thought last week's show was a lot of fun.
Yes.
We just kind of took, what we did was we had a guest that just wasn't feeling well, so I went back and kind of retold some stories of the early days of Kickin Cancer, some of the events that we did, but then we kind of dove into how bad this cancer problem is and why there's this big need. I think there's a huge need for us to create new chapters, or
Yes.
we call them communities, new communities. And the person that was here with you before, Mickey Meisner, she's kind of leading the charge in Vancouver, but I know that she's relying pretty heavily on you, too, to help people out up there.
Right. Oh, yeah.
So what are your thoughts on these chapters that we're starting off with?
I love it because, so as someone who doesn't have cancer, the educational piece has been so huge and beneficial to my family, and I know several other families and listeners have expressed that as well. And then just having a support system there in other communities and areas so that they don't feel alone, so that they do have a cancer guide to go to when they don't know what to do and how to turn and what medicines to use or what medicines not to use, what proper food to put into your body and all of that. So I think, again, comes back to the educational piece through and through, whether it's how to prevent it, how to kick it, or just knowing the knowledge of what to put into your body or what not to put into your body and why.
Well, I'm glad you said that because most of our listeners know we pre-record. So today's Monday, but today is also Kickin Cancer Washington, Kickin Cancer Vancouver, Washington's Go Team event for Q1.
Okay.
And the exciting thing is that I did work alongside Mickey last year to put on a couple of events. They've got this figured out how to do it. This has been 100% them. I have, other than a few phone calls with a few questions, they've organized a really great event. And it's a 13-year-old girl named Charlie who has osteosarcoma, which is a version of bone cancer. And it's just it's an easy way to support up there, but they're working alongside Red Robin, and you just go eat at Red Robin and get checks that come back for them. But then the other thing that Mickey has done really well is help us define the go-to teams.
Yes.
And I got a request last week to sit down with somebody. Heartbreaking story. We'll talk more about it in the future. But young 20-year-old kid, student at Chemeketa.
That's a kid.
Last October, he was just feeling very lethargic. But his mom just thought, well, you're in school, you're in college. There's a lot going on.
Right.
He was living at home, fortunately, but by November, it wasn't getting better. And then they noticed an interesting lump right up here on his neck, but not just one. There were several. And they went and got checked. And he has stage 4 Hodgkin's lymphoma. And that would have been, they knew by December, so just 4 months ago.
Yeah.
They're getting all the tests done in January. I got the request early this month, and I sat down with the mom, And the first thing I did is, I've got some go-to teams for you.
Yes.
And I've already connected her with Mickey.
Good.
And I'm like, your body needs to get to his body needs to go to an alkaline state.
Has to.
Because the sad reality with blood cancer is the protocol they're going to use is chemotherapy. And he's looking at a lot of chemotherapy.
Yeah.
So these go-to teams that Mickey's idea are just so critical for us to be able to give people places to go.
Yeah.
So I'm just thrilled that Mickey has come on board and effectively helped us define what kicking cancer is at an even bigger level.
Yes. Agreed.
Pretty exciting. Well, I know that before we start recording, I pulled the food out just to show Dr. Sherrie what the food is. I'm going to read what the magazine says, but she said she just barely taught a class on this. So she's going to have so much more insights. Our food this week is sage.
Okay.
And last week was rosemary, so we're kind of on some herbs right now. It says, if you love this woodsy herb, you are in luck. It's full of polyphenols. Among sage's many disease-battling perks, it's an anti-inflammatory and has anti-cancer properties.
Okay.
This powerful herb is also a neuroprotective with the potential to block the buildup of HCH in the brain, which can contribute to Alzheimer's.
Oh.
So this simple little green herb has so much power, but I know what I know from what I read.
Yes.
But I want you to know what you know from Dr. Sherrie.
Yeah, and there's different types of sage too. So you have the green sage like they're picking here, and then the white sage, white sage has a really great antimicrobial and antibacterial properties.
Okay.
Along with the anti-inflammatory, reaction where it helps reduce that inflammation in the body. And you can make tea out of it and drink that tea. I used to drink way too much of that sage tea, so it can kind of like irritate the gut if you drink too much, just like anything. You don't want to overindulge, right?
Yeah.
But the white sage is really good for digestive issues too, and the digestive system and the immune system. It's all in the gut, so we got to keep that gut healthy. And but the nice part about the white sage is it is antibacterial and antimicrobial.
Okay.
There you go.
Yes.
There you go.
I don't ever use it very often. I think I have a idea in my head that it's really earthy tasting. Is it?
It is. Yeah.
Okay, so maybe.
Well, and they said this woodsy herb.
Yeah.
I think the sage more is something I use at like Thanksgiving to do with the turkey, but that's it.
Okay.
So I'm sure there's a lot more uses for sage.
There is. Yeah.
And I would say that anyone who wants some tips on those should probably get a hold of Dr. Sherrie.
Yes.
It does taste good. It actually has a really good flavor. I know when I drink it as a tea, I put a little honey in it just to kind of give it a little sweetness, but it still kind of just enhances that great flavor that sage has naturally.
Okay. Yes. Okay.
There you go. So I have a wonderful, wonderful update for you.
Okay, good. I feel like we need wonderful.
You're going to like this update. Do you remember me talking about Go Team Graceland a couple years ago?
Yes, the little girl. And her dad's a cop and mom's a teacher, right?
Yeah,
yes.
Good memory.
Okay.
So for those that don't have your memory, quick update.
I'm really bad memory, actually.
Well, so I knew the mom and the dad. We worked together at Costco when I started this little project. I don't recall now. But we both worked together at Costco. Well, that was just kind of a stopping spot for them. Dad really wanted to be a cop. They weren't married yet. They were just like friends at Costco. They wanted to get married. She became a teacher at McNamara, and he became a police officer in Kaiser.
Yes.
And it would have been about a year, almost 2 years ago, that I ran into him wearing one of these shirts. And he's like, this is really cool what you're doing because my daughter has cancer. And I think she was 3 at the time. She had leukemia.
Yep.
And as he said, the good news is she has the most common childhood cancer.
Right.
Which is also then the most researched childhood cancer.
Right, yes.
Didn't make the treatment any better.
No.
But at least it was better researched. Well, as of trying to figure out how many days, as of 10 days ago, she had her last chemo session. She got to ring the bell.
Yes. Yes.
She got to ring the bell.
Oh. That's amazing.
I can never say that someone's out of the woods, but as of right now, this little girl is cancer-free.
That is amazing because, yes, she's been battling that about 2 years.
About 2 years. Yeah.
What a relief for her and her
told you it was good
family
news.
and everything. That's phenomenal news.
Yeah.
Yes.
In fact, the second, which ties into my other update for you, the second cancer awareness basketball game we did, she was the little girl who got to do the tip-off.
Okay.
So she comes out with her dad. He's holding her. At the time, she's almost 4. And, so this is a little kid.
Yeah.
And she tosses up there, and then Damo hits the ball. So she did our tip-off the second time.
Okay.
On the 11th, which is not that far, the 11th of April, not that far away, is our 4th cancer awareness basketball game. And this year, Ashley Davis is going to do the ceremonial tip-off.
That's awesome.
So,
yes, I remember her. She came into our world shortly after Ozzy.
Oh, yeah.
And I remember it was like, oh, please don't, not another child. It broke my heart that these kids get cancer like that. So that is amazing that she had a positive turnout.
Yeah.
Amazing.
She is alive and ringing the bell. And beautiful.
Such a cute little girl.
Yeah, I've got some wonderful pictures. So if someone has not found us on YouTube, go to YouTube and the search engine, put in Kickin Cancer Productions, like and subscribe to our show, because this show will go Monday to YouTube, and you're going to see some pictures of Graceland the day she was at the hospital. I'm going to send them to Ashley to add to the YouTube show.
Perfect.
Well, I want to do 2 things in this first half. One, I do want to circle back to the book that I referenced last week.
Yes.
And a very interesting event. So this book, Dr. Sherrie, was gifted to me recently, Anti-Cancer, A New Way of Living. And it was written by a gentleman named Dr. Schreiber, I think is how you say his name. It's French. I'll probably slaughter it. But he was diagnosed in 1992. And when the book was written in 2007, at that point he was already 15 years cancer-free. He had been diagnosed with a brain tumor.
Oh, wow.
Now, what I find intriguing, and you made this comment too, this is the book that I took a lot of the information from as I found at Kickin Cancer, the Anti-Cancer Living. But like the title, the front is almost exactly the same.
Very similar.
The font and everything is almost the same. This book was written in 2018 by Dr. Lorenzo Cohen at the MD Anderson in Texas. But here's where life comes full circle.
Full circle.
Full circle. After you read the whole book and all of his different tips, in his concluding thoughts, he says, about a year after I met Dr. David Schreiber, he met him. He met the guy who wrote this book.
Yes.
Right? I had the honor and challenge of delivering a speech in his stead. So the year that Lorenzo Cohen was asked to give a speech, David was scheduled to be the keynote speaker at some big conference there at the MD Anderson in Texas. And that summer, David was suffering through a recurrence of his disease. So he couldn't make it. So then Dr. Cohen spoke in his stead. As it turns out, that was the summer that he lost his battle with brain cancer. 2011.
Yeah.
But it was just so interesting that I had found this book in January 2019 as I was starting this organization. This was gifted to me, and they practically look at the same front.
Can you say who gifted it to you?
Yes. Not realizing how bad Marianne's situation was, she gave me this book about a month before she died. And she said, I think you should use this moving forward.
And
So this is going to be a great book to read, but also remember who gave this book to me.
Yeah. Well, and it's just awesome because she was such a supporter of you in this journey. And so to give you a book, not even realizing how full circle it would come.
She had no idea how full circle that book was.
So, well, she does now.
She does. Well, I'm going to dedicate this book and everything we read to Marianne, and she is not going to die in vain.
No, she is absolutely not.
So I just wanted to bring that. We're going to dive deeper into this book. A couple points here, and I know that if we had tons more time, that Dr. Sherrie could add a lot of thoughts to this. But here's the 4 things I mentioned last week. This is his approach. So just to give you a little backstory, he had gone through this brain cancer diagnosis. It looked like it was in remission, and he turned to his doctors, and he's like, what can I do? And they said, basically nothing. Just come back in periodically for an MRI, make sure to come back. Well,
I know.
when you hear her story, you'll understand why she is saying, why she's reacting the way she does.
Yeah.
But he didn't believe them. He said, no, there's got to be something you can do. So he says he has a new perspective on his illness, and he's created these 4 approaches that anyone can do, anyone can practice, and gain control of your own body. The first one is we've got to guard ourselves against the imbalances in our environment. That is going to play into the second half of today's show. These imbalances have developed since the 1940s, and they do promote the current epidemic of cancer. That's literally what he says, the current epidemic of cancer.
Yeah.
The second one is we've got to adjust our diet, get those proper phytochemical components, which we talk about that a lot. The third one, and I really do want to find someone that's a good speaker on this one, because we have to understand the healing psychological wounds that feed the biological mechanisms that work in our body to create cancer. There are things that happen to all of us when we're much younger, maybe as children, maybe you were abused, something that if you don't ever deal with it has the potential to create cancer.
Yeah.
You bet it does. Yeah.
And
I
then-
see that a lot with patients, hidden and trapped emotions, and then we do therapy to release that so that their body can recognize that, oh, I don't have to hold that emotional baggage anymore, which can really manifest in different ways in the body.
Yeah.
And then the last one there is controlling inflammation. And I've got guests planned over the next several weeks. They're going to talk about a couple ways that can help with inflammation.
Okay.
But that's this is the future of the Kickin Cancer education right here from
Okay.
this book.
That's exciting.
Thanks to Marianne.
Yeah.
But you kind of heard a little bit of us kind of alluding to it. So I do want to give Dr. Sherrie plenty of time to tell us your cancer story again.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Which is not
Well-
one, it's not one cancer.
Right.
It's not
yeah,
two cancers.
So, yeah.
It's a few.
I've had cancer 4 times since the time I was 26 all the way to when I was 44, and then recently a couple of years ago. So, and anyway, my history, my grandmother died of cancer, multiple cancers that she ended up having.
Wow.
And I have a great-grandmother who died of cancer, and a great-great-grandmother, and then my great-grandmother on my dad's side who had a brain tumor, and then my dad also died of cancer. And
Kind
so,
of prevalent in the family.
what do you do, right? And, yes, things can be hereditary, of course, but it's also what do our families become exposed to that causes a genetic mutation.
Yeah.
So
Very
what
much so.
was the first cancer when you were 20 something?
Yeah, so when I was 26, I had a huge tumor growing on my fallopian tube, which I had removed. And then, I was pretty good. I was in good health, worked out all the time. And then 36, I was in my best shape, ate perfectly. There's no way I put no toxins, didn't put any alcohol in my body or other substances. It was all health food stuff and just keeping healthy. And I worked out a lot. I was actually getting ready for a bodybuilding show that year. And,
Wow.
And I ended up having uteral and ovarian cancer. And then I had a hysterectomy. And then
That's
back
at 36 years old.
Yeah, at 36 years old.
When you were 26 years old, is that when you kind of started your health journey, or did you do it before that, or did the cancer kind of kick that off?
No, I was already into health and wellness.
That's
because back then, in that time, I was just studying naturopathic medicine and trying to finish up. By the time I was 36, I was finishing up my doctorate in naturopathy.
Yeah.
And then, and it just kind of, it can go away for a while, stay in that, remission, and then you just never know when it may rear its ugly head again. You just have to keep on top of it and make sure that mutation doesn't continue to, show itself somewhere else.
Yeah.
So the first time it's a tumor on your fallopian tubes.
Yes.
And for listeners that are not 100% familiar, we're talking about some gynecological cancers
Yes.
here.
Mhm.
And the second
Exactly.
time it's on your ovaries.
Yeah, one of my ovaries and my uteral wall and cervix. And
So still in that
it's
same
set
region of the
together.
body.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then it came a third time.
Yeah, and then the third time it went to my left side where I had squamous cell carcinoma cancer removed. And then it went to my breast. And and then the breast.
How old were you on the third time?
Oh, gosh, I was 55.
Okay.
around there. And then right about the time that I was around 59, it decided to kind of come into the breast area and into my left breast. And so...
But the thing I love about, this is a weird sentence. The thing I love about your cancer story, that's a weird sentence, is how you chose to battle it.
Right.
Because again, her background is in naturopathic medicine.
Right.
And you had it surgically removed, but you didn't go down the radiation, the chemotherapy route.
Yeah, the only thing I didn't have surgically removed was the breast cancer. And how I treated that was all through every single cancer that I've ever had. I've always treated it through naturopathic care. I've never done chemo, no radiation, no Western medicine at all. You know, the only thing I've used Western medicine for is the testing and the x-rays, you know, getting the CTs done or the MRIs and then getting the blood work tested.
Yeah. And thank gosh you were on this naturopathic path, because who knows what the cancer would have done if you weren't ahead of that game.
Yes.
And you weren't doing all the things that you were supposed to be doing.
Right.
So that's...
And then you would have taken you would have taken the advice of the doctors, because
you wouldn't have been educated.
No, not at all. And I think the Western medicine doctors hated seeing me because I came in with an educated knowledge of how to treat it in so many different ways. And the doctor that I was seeing when I was 36 years old was actually an MD and a ND. So he was the head medical doctor of Cadillac Hospital way back in the day, you know. And when he ended up having a spinal injury on his farm, he was laid up and decided to go back to school online and get his naturopathic degrees and opened up his own clinic. And that's when I really just dove deep into more naturopathic knowledge and care, and Dr. Weber was an amazing doctor.
Well, if he had an MD and an ND, he was probably more open to your ideas than some of the other ones.
Very much.
The other guys were.
And he didn't used to be, you know, when he talked to me about...
Yeah,
when he was, you know, an MD, before just that, doing that and running that hospital, you know, his mind was very much adapted into the Western medicine.
Yeah.
Until he had an experience where it failed him. And then he ended up going the other route. And how he got better was he had an acupuncture friend.
Yeah.
And the acupuncture friend brought her herbs and needles and treated him. And he was able to, doctors tell him he'll never walk again because he severed his spinal cord.
Wow. It's amazing how it comes down to being uneducated in those areas. And when, like your doctor, he became educated when it applied to him, and it opened up a whole new world.
It did really do that. And, you know, and I really dealt deep with his assistants. And I think that just having somebody who has such great knowledge in different aspects of medicine, and that knowledge is so key to really kind of just search out those people, you know, those key people that, you know, like Mickey refers to, like myself, you know, we have our team, you know, that everybody has a different knowledge of how to treat things.
Yes.
You know, whether it's natural or through Western medicine.
Well, you mentioned something earlier, and we're almost out of time this half, so I'm going to get deeper into this in the second half. But you said your mom had cancer, your grandma. How many people in your family? 4 or 5?
Oh, gosh. So let's see. My mom, my grandmother, my great-grandmother, the third generation grandmother, and then the other side. So about 5 people, including myself, and then my sister. She's currently battling cancer.
So do you think this is genetic for you, or do you think that and I don't want to get too far because it's going to be the second half, or is this the environment that you guys grew up in, or both?
I think both. I really do, because the environment that we, you know, grew up in, where you grew up, Hermiston, Oregon, you know, you are, and here's the key part of this is, when I was seeing that doctor out in the Tri-Cities, he was doing testing on the patients, and he asked me to be in his study. And what it was he was actually suing the Hanford site for the uranium poisoning and all the heavy chemical poisoning that was happening in that area at the time. And I was one of those patients that had a high uranium poisoning where I shouldn't even have been walking.
Wow.
You know, and when he saw me, he was surprised I was still alive, you know. And my grandmother was dying at that time that I was diagnosed with the uterine and ovarian cancer, and she ended up dying at 83 but her cancer spread so bad, and it's because she never really cleaned up her diet, right?
Yeah.
And she chose the Western way, so she didn't look at other options that she could have did to build her immune system.
Right.
And for those that are listening on the radio, the ones that are watching YouTube, it's going to be pretty apparent. For the ones that are listening, you grew up outside of Pendleton.
Yes.
I grew up outside of Hermiston, neighboring towns. But did you grow up on a reservation?
No, not on the reservation. I grew up actually in Pendleton, Oregon, but I kind of went back and forth, between Hermiston, Oregon and Pendleton, Oregon. My
Okay.
grandparents lived in Hermiston.
So we're gonna talk about some natives when we come back.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Then let's give a huge shout out to Oddmo's Pizza, who is our sponsor of this first half. Sorry, almost got ahead of myself there. Absolutely amazing pizza. Their potato poppers are phenomenal, and they're not fried. They're baked. They're so good, and they've got 3 different salad options that are all amazing. So go check them out for lunch today, you guys. We'll be right back.